Good evening, everyone. I'm Brooke Ruffin, here to welcome you to a new live broadcast where we are dedicated to keeping you updated on all things global, national, and regional.
And everything else in between. We keep things in the moment and happening now. So let's jump in. Prime News starts right now.
As the unprovoked invasion continues to ravage Ukraine due to the President Biden continues to issue more sanctions on Russia, a major oil producer. The most recent sanction halted the buying of crude oil from Russia, and although crude oil from Russia only accounts for 3% of U.S. imports, the invasion is impacting prices globally. And here at home, gas prices hit a new all-time high this week, surpassing 7 cents. The average price is now at $4.32 per gallon, the highest ever, and exceeding $6 per gallon in some parts of the country. Sticker shock at the pumps is causing a ripple effect on our entire supply chain, with a record 40-year high inflation rate already taking a bit out of people's paychecks. Currently, continued supply chain issues, labor shortages, effects of the pandemic, and the higher costs at the pumps are adding further stress to American consumers' lives. From increasing in the cost of goods and services to travel, families are feeling the pinch. For workers making minimum wage, the high cost of gas is making it difficult to even get to work. Companies have been increasing costs to offset the reset gas increase. Little Caesars is increasing the cost of their legendary $5 pizza by 55 cents for the first time since it was introduced in 1997. And Uber Technologies Inc. was just announced they were imposing a supercharge over the next 2 months, ranging from 45 to 55 cents for Uber riders and 35 or 45 cents for Uber Eats deliveries, depending on the length of the ride and gas prices in the area. Reducing highway speed by 5 can increase fuel economy by 14%. It is difficult to say when we will see any relief, especially at the pump. Only time will tell. In the meantime, is there anything the American consumer can do during these tough times? AAA has a few attempts for motorists feeling the pinch. Some tips include, for proper fuel economy, keep tires properly inflated if you plan to stop for the thing. Turn off the engine to reduce fuel consumption, and if you're thinking about filling up with premium gas when it's not required, please do not do that. It doesn't benefit the vehicle, and it just ends up costing extra money. Now let's hear from Grant on how the U.S. companies are affecting Russia.
A slew of popular brands here in the U.S. have either paused or entirely stopped doing business in Russia amid their invasion of Ukraine. Popular food chains like McDonald's and Starbucks have closed all of their locations in the country for the time being, and PepsiCo has said that they will stop selling soda but continue to produce dairy and baby food products in a humanitarian effort. In the technology and media industry, Netflix has suspended service and paused future projects. Disney has paused all movie releases and business operations in the country. Microsoft and Apple have suspended sales, and Uber is trying to accelerate its divestment from the Russian internet company Yandex, which operates a ride-hailing service. And in a shocking move from Facebook parent company Meta, they've announced that they've temporarily changed their hate speech policy on their platforms like Facebook and Instagram to allow calls for violence against Russian civilians, where it's clear that the context is the Russian invasion of Ukraine and also Russian soldiers. And even going so far as to allow users to call for the death of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Facebook says, quote, "We still allow credible calls for violence against Russian civilians, and that the calls for leaders' deaths will be allowed unless they contain other targets or have two indicators of credibility, such as location or method," end quote. Russia has blocked the use of Facebook in the country. Well, this past Friday, HB Religious Life held a prayer vigil for the citizens of Ukraine impacted by the Russian invasion, and Brooke got a unique perspective at one HBU student's personal connection to the crisis.
That's right, Grant. I sat down with sophomore Annie Borofsky, whose parents hails from Ukraine, about how this time has impacted her life and her family. Take a look.
On February 24th, millions of innocent lives have been changed forever as Russia launched a full-scale attack on Ukraine. Now a sovereign nation has been reduced to rubble as a result of the Russian invasion. Lives have been lost, families separated and displaced, cities destroyed.
There is a growing humanitarian crisis as a result of the war in Ukraine as families are fleeing the war. Almost 2 million refugees, half of them children, are now in neighboring countries, leaving everything behind, their husbands, fathers, and brothers, in search of somewhere safe. With the news and images of devastating tragedy, there are also images and stories of kindness, bravery, and resilience of the Ukrainian people.
Although High Point University is thousands of miles from Ukraine, compassion and support run deep throughout the university for those affected.
High Point University always comes together to support each other in times of need and crisis. Recently, High Point moms Michelle McGuigan and Jessica Andrich created a flag as a gesture for HPU students and staff to be able to show support for Annie Borofsky, a student at High Point University, and her family.
I had a chance to speak with Annie about the situation in Ukraine and what the gesture means to her.
My name is Annie Borofsky. I'm a sophomore here at High Point University studying sport management, and I am a first-generation American-Ukrainian. My parents were both born in Ukraine. My dad was born in Kyiv, which is the capital, and my mom was born in Kharkiv, which is the second largest city in Ukraine. There's a lot of news surrounding those two cities right now just because they're extremely, heavy populated. That's where the Russian military is kind of aiming. Putin's plan was to kind of overtake Ukraine within the first 72 hours, and he failed because they didn't think that normal civilians would, stand up and fight. Kids as young as 6, 7, 8 years old, they're getting taken from their families, and it's just heartbreaking. My cousin did flee to go and fight. He's actually originally from the country of Georgia, and in Georgia and in Ukraine, like my dad explained to me, their PE classes are kind of military prep, so it's they have the skills to go out and fight and help his family members, some of my cousins that are still over there. At the end of the day, it is about fighting for what's right, fighting for their country. I think for me, hearing my parents be emotional about it has been really tough. Last semester, my freshman year, Gail Tuttle, who is Vice President of Health and Wellness, she kind of connected with me and my family, and my mom kind of joked with her Mrs. Tuttle, there's so many flags up on the promenade, why isn't there a Ukrainian flag? Didn't think anything of it, was kind of just joking around. I'm pretty sure within 2 weeks, Gail sent my mom a picture of the Ukrainian flag up on the promenade.
I asked Annie Borofsky and HPU student Richie McGuigan what the gesture means to them.
Just that small gesture of making my family feel included, any other people of Ukrainian background on campus. It just shows how much the university cares, and with the banner and even these cute little ribbons, definitely just shows the impact that High Point University has.
My mom thought of the idea and spoke to Annie's mom about it. We knew that we had to bring it to school and have everyone sign it, and then that's when I came back to campus and got involved with somewhere. I just wanted to find somewhere to put this and have it be out there, and this was the best thing that HBU had, and I was so fortunate to be here today and have people sign it and witness it, and I just had a huge smile on my face the entire time.
What do you believe will happen in the future for Ukraine?
As long as people get clear messages across and not kind of the corrupt messages that Russia's sending out, and they get factual truth, that people's kind of heads will it'll switch and they'll want to stand up and do what's right.
Annie's mother believes, quote, Russian president and his army can destroy our cities, but they will never destroy Ukrainian nation, spirit, and culture. It will be a long and very hard way to rebuild everything, but Ukraine will be more beautiful and united like never before. And I hope that our people, our president, our fight for independence and our country show to the whole world that Ukraine deserves to be part of the European Union and NATO. Glory to Ukraine. End quote.
This is Brooke Ruffin reporting to you live from High Point University.
Wow, that was amazing. You could really tell, even though Annie isn't from Ukraine, only her parents are, how emotional she's gotten from this whole situation. And one other thing that stood out to me was how positive the Ukrainian people and Annie's family are able to remain throughout this whole thing. So
Exactly.
what did you take from observing her during that interview?
Yeah, well, during these devastating times in Ukraine, I mean, Annie had a positive outlook on it, and she basically just told me that all the people in Ukraine are basically giving up their lives to save their country, and I feel that the only thing you can do is pray, and that's what she told me. And she said her mom quoted "Glory to Ukraine," which I thought was very powerful, because all these individuals are fighting for what's right and fighting for their country. And some of the images that I received from her mom and from Annie, one of her relatives through Facebook, I couldn't even show some of the images because they were so horrific, and it's just devastating of what's happening in the country. And the only thing that you can do is pray, and pray that this will come to an end at some point.
Yeah, well, they're pretty tough people from what I've seen. And our thoughts and prayers go out to Annie, her family, and all the people of Ukraine. Coming back from the break, we will hear more about what's happening in our region.
North Carolina News is next. Stay with us.
Even though there is so much against us,
You will see me choose to protect myself and my community from the coronavirus by wearing a face covering.
Because it's going to take all of us thinking about one another.
And even with my face covered, you will see me.
You will see me as a mother, a wife, a friend.
As an athlete who gave everything to the game I love.
As a father, leading by example.
As a sister.
An entertainer.
As a champion for my people.
You will see me finding a light in a dark time.
To unlock our creativity and push our craft.
You will see me demanding the space to tell the stories that matter.
As a man who knows that tough times don't last, but tough people do.
join us in wearing a face covering to help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because covering your face is one small act of kindness that has the power to bring us together.
Worried your friend's struggling but don't know how to reach out?
You could say how are you or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could write them a text or knit them a sweater. If you can't be together, you could write them a letter.
Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking.
You could chat on the game, kick off your flip-flops. You could ask on your couch while you binge watch. However you do it, you gotta ask a friend. And if they don't share, you can ask again.
Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking.
There are a lot of ways to reach out to a friend about their mental health. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
I feel like her heartbeat is like same speed as mine. And I think we have this like deep connection, this heart connection in her heart, that there's room for me and mom. When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer. It's a sensory thing. It's a thing with Asperger's.
She's really good with Anya. I've seen adults react to my daughter when she has meltdowns like she's from a different planet. And this little animal just sat next to my child and was just like, you know, it's gonna be cool.
She's my superhero.
Good job, Kitty Cat.
When we adopted Lucky, we discovered all the wonderful things that make her unique.
Lucky's a little bit of a lot of things, but mostly she's pure love.
Welcome back to Prime News. I'm Jackson Barnes.
And I'm Will O'Brien. Scientists are now saying that the so-called Joro spiders are on the move across the southeast and could spread even further along the east coast in the coming weeks through migration and human transportation. The spider with East Asian origins has a mix of red, yellow, black, and blue colors, and their golden webs have already been spotted in Georgia and South Carolina, despite being unclear when they first arrived in America. Luckily, experts say that Joro spiders are not a big threat to humans or pets and won't bite unless they feel extremely threatened. Joros are venomous, according to University of Georgia researchers, but their fangs are usually too small to break through human skin. And because they are mostly seen as benign to the environment, they can survive as additional prey for certain bird predators.
Across the nation, reports have been flooding in of individuals stealing gas, resulting in the subsequent damage of personal vehicles. North Carolina's Nash County Sheriff's Office has yet to receive any formal complaints of similar cases in the region, but informed the public that if someone has gas stolen from their vehicle, to report it immediately to local law enforcement. Nash County Sheriff Keith Stone said, "As gas gets more difficult and more expensive, somebody's out there trying to figure out a way to get over on someone." In some parts of the nation, thieves are going as far as to drill holes in the bottom of gas tanks to drain the fuel from underneath the vehicle. This can damage the car and be a costly replacement, as a gas tank can cost up to $1,400 in repairs. Police departments across the state are urging individuals to park close to their homes and lock their cars. Law enforcement offices have even shared a post on social media showing an image of a hole drilled into a car's gas tank, but detailed that this did not occur in the state, but rather was shared as to increase public awareness of the situation. Many North Carolina drivers did express concern for potential gas thieves, but residents like Mel Wilson said that, quote, "There's not much to do if someone's going to take the gas, they're going to take the gas," end quote. We'll have more on this situation as we continue to monitor the fluctuation of gas prices across the state.
We have an update on the Gabby Petito case tonight. Petito's parents have just filed a civil lawsuit in the state of Florida alleging that the parents of her killer, Brian Laundrie, were aware of their son's crimes and attempted to help him flee justice by fleeing the country.
In the lawsuit, it says, quote, "Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie exhibited extreme and outrageous conduct which constitutes behavior under the circumstances which goes beyond all possible bounds of decency and is regarded as shocking, atrocious, and utterly intolerable in a civilized community," end quote.
In July, Petito and Laundrie left New York on a cross-country road trip. They made it to Jackson, Wyoming by late August, and by September 1st, Laundrie pulled into his parents' driveway in Northport, Florida, driving Petito's van with her nowhere to be found.
Laundrie committed suicide near his parents' Florida home in October after attempts to hide evidence of Petito's death using phony text messages were discovered by the FBI.
Court documents show the Petito family is seeking more than $100,000 in damages for alleged negligence, pain, and suffering. They are now demanding a jury trial. So I was following the story when it happened a couple months ago. Do you think that the Petito family is going down the right path? Are they pursuing the right path here?
I think that the family is completely justified in finding out who their daughter's murderer actually is, and it's very essential that they do whatever is necessary to get justice for their daughter.
Exactly. We will be right back after this break with our sports specialist Danny Shea and Cameron Christie to tell us what is happening in the sports world.
Even though there is so much against us,
You will see me choose to protect myself and my community from the coronavirus by wearing a face covering.
Because it's going to take all of us thinking about one another.
And even with my face covered, you will see me.
You will see me as a mother, a wife, a friend.
As an athlete who gave everything to the game I love.
As a father, leading by example.
As a sister.
An entertainer.
As a champion for my people.
You will see me finding a light in a dark time.
To unlock our creativity and push our craft.
You will see me demanding the space to tell the stories that matter.
As a man who knows that tough times don't last, but tough people do.
join us in wearing a face covering to help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because covering your face is one small act of kindness that has the power to bring us together.
Worried your friend's struggling but don't know how to reach out?
You could say how are you or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could write them a text or knit them a sweater. If you can't be together, you could write them a letter.
Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking.
You could chat on the game, kick off your flip-flops. You can ask on your couch while you binge watch. However you do it, you gotta ask a friend. And if they don't share, you can ask again.
Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking.
There are a lot of ways to reach out to a friend about their mental health. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
I feel like her heartbeat is like same speed as mine. And I think we have this like deep connection, this heart connection in her heart, that there's room for me and mom. When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer. It's a sensory thing. It's a thing with Asperger's.
She's really good with Anya. I've seen adults react to my daughter when she has meltdowns like she's from a different planet. And this little animal just sat next to my child and was just like, you know, it's gonna be cool. She's my superhero. Good job, kitty cat. When we adopted Lucky, we discovered all the wonderful things that make her unique.
Lucky's a little bit of a lot of things, but mostly she's pure love.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back into Prime News. The NFL offseason is officially underway, and we've seen some major moves so far. The first major move we saw to start the offseason involves the quarterback position. Pat McAfee announced on his Twitter last week that Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers will be staying with the Packers on a team-friendly deal. NFL insider Ian Rappaport announced the deal was worth over $200 million for 4 years, but McAfee said instantly that he had heard from Rodgers that is not an official deal just yet. There were many teams, including the Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts, that were closely monitoring Rodgers and his situation, but the back-to-back MVP will stay where he has been his entire career in Green Bay. Later that same day, the Denver Broncos making a blockbuster trade. After not being able to get Aaron Rodgers, the Broncos made a trade to acquire longtime Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson. The Broncos agreed to trade quarterback Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a 2022 fifth-round pick selection to the Seahawks for Wilson and a 2022 fourth-round pick. This gives the Broncos a massive upgrade at the quarterback position, and it now creates an AFC West division that includes Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, and Justin Herbert. The Washington Commanders wanted to join in on the quarterback carousel as well, and as they found their quarterback upgrade, Carson Wentz. The Colts received a 2022 third-round pick, a 2023 third-round pick that escalates to a second-rounder if Carson Wentz plays 70% of his snaps, and a 2022 second-round pick. The Commanders received Carson Wentz and a 2022 second-round pick. The Commanders will retain all of Wentz's salary in the deal as well. And finally, over the weekend, we saw Amari Cooper be traded to the Cleveland Browns. The Dallas Cowboys agreed to trade wide receiver Cooper and the 6th-round pick to the Browns for a 2022 5th-round selection and a 6th-round selection. Cooper, who turns 28 in June, ranked 8th in the league during his time in Dallas in targets among receivers, 7th in receptions, 9th in receiving yards, and 9th in receiving touchdowns. The Browns entered this offseason on the hunt to rebuild Baker Mayfield's wide receiving core, which was a massive disappointment last season, and the Browns do just that in picking up Cooper from Dallas. Oh, yeah, and Tom Brady, yeah, he just faked us all out and came out of retirement yesterday, so there's that to deal with as well. So with all that said, let's head over to Cam with some news that baseball fans have been waiting to hear for a very long time. Cam?
Thanks, Danny. Now we take it towards the field as baseball season is finally upon us. After 99 days of debate over the CBA deal, the MLB owners and the MLB Players Association have agreed to the terms on the deal. The CBA deal includes some details of how the MLB will change the game's rules and some money thresholds for salary caps and contracts. The changed concepts were that the playoff format has expanded from 10 to 12 teams, a universal DH, a pitch clock, restrictions on defensive positioning, and the installation of larger bases for health and safety purposes. The MLBPA Executive Director Tony Clark released a press statement addressing the resolution of the lockout. Quote, "Our union endured the second longest work stoppage in its history to achieve significant progress in key areas that will improve not just current players' rights and benefits, but those of generations to come. Players remained engaged and unified from the beginning to end and re-energized our fraternity in the process." End quote. After some long days of negotiation, the MLB Commissioner Ron Manfred canceled the first 2 weeks of baseball on March 1st. Opening day for the MLB to start the regular season will start on April 7th, 2022, and we will begin spring training as it starts this Thursday. In a surprise development, we turn back towards the gridiron as the 44-year-old Tom Brady has shockingly unretired and has announced he will be returning to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for his 23rd season in the NFL. In his statement addressing this, he said, quote, these past 2 months, I've realized my place is still on the field and not in the stands. That time will come, but it's not now. I love my teammates and I love my supportive family. They will make it all possible. I'm coming back for my 23rd season in Tampa. Unfinished business. Let's effing go. This comes as a complete shocker as Brady announced his retirement to the world on February 1st, 2022. As he said, it takes 100% commitment to football and that it has time for him to spend more time with his wife, Gisele Bündchen, and their 3 children. Now we will hear from Lisbeth and Cassandra for About International.
Hello and welcome back to Prime News. I'm Lisbeth Ramirez.
And I'm Cassandra Kreishnik. For over a month, Ukraine has been the biggest news worldwide. From American reporters to the UN, the Russia-Ukraine crisis has unfolded into war in front of the world's eyes. Heroes, horrors, divide, and unity have been prevalent throughout the development of the war. However, along the borders of a country under assault, the stark reminder that color still divides us all is in effect. Millions of refugees fleeing Ukraine hope to reach the western havens such as France, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, Hungary, and Moldova, and a number of small other ones flee to Belarus. While the majority of Ukraine's refugees are white, a significant number of people are of color, most notably of African or Asian descent. Reports of such discrimination primarily come from non-Ukrainian men, as the elderly, women, and children have priority. Ademeyo Ambimbole, a Nigerian student who was studying Ukraine, said that, quote, Ukrainians are given priority. Our lives also matter. It's unclear whether Mr. Abimbole or his friends reached sanctuary. Solomon, a 35-year-old locksmith who fled Kharkiv and is originally from Kenya, told sources that authorities were, quote, trying to show that there are levels to this, and we were the last. While women are a priority in the evacuation efforts, 2 women in their 20s, originally from Zambia, Nawa and Kathy, are just 2 ladies who found themselves being denied boarding to an evacuation train out of Kiev. Once boarded later on, Nawa admitted that her thoughts told her that this type of discrimination has been, quote, seen time and time again. Outside the war zone, there are stories of people who are aware and they have taken to the internet to express this double standard in European refugee immigration crises. Specifically, they compare this to the refugee crisis in the Syrian refugee crisis. Andrew Geddes, the director of the Migration Policy Center, said that the acceptance of white Ukrainian refugees was because other Europeans saw the Ukrainians as European, with very strong ties with other European countries. While white refugees are being accepted because they look European, the refugees or asylum seekers who don't look European are rejected because they look different, racially, socially, and culturally. Geddes went as far to admit that, quote, the EU is much more willing to internalize a refugee situation where the people who are being forced to flee are white Europeans, and was reluctant to protect non-white people faced with the same dangers, end quote. Despite Geddes' admittance to the failure of equal immigration protection, UN High Commissioner on Refugees, Filippo Grandi, said there was just, quote, instances, end quote, of differentiated treatment. Additionally, Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dmytro Kuleba, tweeted that Ukraine was sparing, quote, no effort to solve the problem, end quote, and that Ukraine's government has established an emergency hotline to, quote, assist African, Asian, and other students, end quote, seeking to leave Ukraine. Expect more to hear stories like these out of Ukraine as Russia advances for Kiev and continues to wage war. So as a student of color myself, this just made me so upset to hear. So how do you feel about this as a fellow student of color?
I'm not surprised. I won't lie, I didn't really know what the demographics were in Ukraine. So I didn't know, I mean, I knew there were people of color, but I didn't know if they were, you know, I didn't really know the demographics. So I was surprised about that because I was just like, oh, but I mean, Europe has a long way to go still as it is. So I'm not surprised the Middle East everywhere has a long way to go when it comes to being of color and discrimination. So I'm not surprised. It is sad. And I hope that in the future it'll get better because it's just, you know,
it's tough.
Especially with the circumstances, because the fact that because of your skin color, you could die. Like, and I know that happens here a lot too, but you would think that during war, they would be more united and they wouldn't really they would look past color, but that's all they see.
Of course. So, do you actually have any other international updates that you could give us?
So I actually do.
Take it away.
Saudi Arabia now holds the highest number of people executed in one single day. This includes 37 Saudi nationals who were all accused and found guilty of attempting to assassinate security officers. There were also 7 Yemenis and 1 Syrian found guilty of terrorism and having different beliefs that could threaten the country. Some of these men were also guilty of murdering innocent people and pledging allegiance to terrorist groups such as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the Houthis. The total number of men executed is 81, the highest in decades. In 1980, Saudi Arabia executed 63 people in one day. 47 people were also executed in 2016, also in one single day. In 2020-2021, there were 94 executions altogether. SPA, the state news agency for the kingdom, said, quote, "The accused were provided with the right to an attorney and were guaranteed their full rights under Saudi law during the judicial process, which found them guilty of committing multiple heinous crimes that left a large number of civilians and law enforcement officers dead," end quote. So 81 people. Wow. I mean, what do you think of this? Obviously, it's not a laughing matter. It's actually really sad. What are your thoughts?
I don't know what to make of it. Like, it's 81 people. I don't know how Saudi law is. I don't know what, like, coming from an American point of view, it's definitely a heinous crime, as you were saying. So I don't know what to make of it. Like, it's not a laughing matter, but the only way I can really think about it is just laughing it off because it's so much. It's so hard to take in.
Yeah, it's super shocking. When I was like looking at the story, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Yeah, and the fact that there's been different years where they've had a really long amount too is what really baffles me too about that. So do you think we'll continue to see these numbers get higher as in, I mean, this year, or what do you think?
I have no idea. I mean, since 2020, like, we never thought we would have a pandemic that would last this long, so we didn't think that there would be 81 people executed in a single day, but I mean,
everything's happening. Everything
has happened so far, so I don't know, anything can happen, honestly.
Yeah, and that's so sad to say when it comes to tragedies like this. And how do you think this will affect future trials for Saudi Arabia? Do you think that they'll try to have a little more compassion, I guess you could say, or do you think it'll just stay the same?
I think it's definitely setting a precedent, but you know, I mean, it's been going up every year, or every, I guess, story that comes out of Saudi Arabia or the Middle East or in that area. Numbers keep rising, so I don't know what to make of it. It could go up, it could stay the same. We'll just have to stay tuned.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it goes down and that we don't have to see executions that high, because of course it's always sad to see crimes like that happen around the world.
Definitely. As these stories progress, we'll keep you guys updated. That's all for this week's international news. Now let's head over to Grant and Brooke for our final thoughts.
Over the weekend, Chicago was the place to be as crowds returned to the Windy City for St. Patrick's Day festivities after a 2-year hiatus following the pandemic. On a gorgeous sunny day, thousands of people came out to celebrate the traditions, beginning with the dying green of the Chicago River, which continued to flow green for 48 hours. St. Patrick's Day is on March 17th and is a day to celebrate the Irish culture and religion, as well as the remembrance of the foremost patron saint of Ireland, St. Patrick. People from all over the world, the U.S., come to Chicago to celebrate the St. Paddy's Day festivities, which are now in its 67th year. A wonderful tradition of the festivities is the ringing of the holiday by Old St. Patrick's Church in the Old St. Loop in the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which honored essential workers this year. Crowds filled the streets and businesses were booming again due to the celebrations, a positive sign following a tough 2 years.
I would love to go to Chicago someday to see the river dyed green.
I would too.
I've never been
Me
to
neither.
that part of the country, so just going to that part of the country would be good, especially on St. Patrick's Day. I've only been to New York City for the parade, and it's pretty hectic, so I would love to see how Chicago compares.
Me too, as well. I've never been to Chicago. That's all for your week of March 14th. This has been Prime News. Thank you for joining us and keeping us informed and updated on all things across the world. Please be sure to join us, same time and place, next week. In the meantime, follow us on Instagram at HPU Prime News. I'm Brooke Ruffin.
And I'm Grant Hines. Good night, High Point.